Hello, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome to our podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the relationship between masculinity and gyms and also athletic teams more broadly.
And our primary guiding research questions are: how does the gym function as a site of the construction of masculinity at Bowdoin during non-COVID times? Then how has the closing of gyms due to COVID affected the construction of athletic masculinity?
In order to answer these questions, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 7 Bowdoin students on men's athletic teams and 1 student on a women's team. We'd like to recognize the fact that our positionality as researchers will definitely have affected what our participants were willing to share with us.
We're definitely peer students to our respondents, but our gender presentation varies from theirs, and we're also sharing the non-athlete status.
When we first started this research, we began by looking specifically at gyms and Buck Gym in the Bowdoin Fitness Center, but we quickly realized that the construction of men's athletic masculinity is a project much larger than what happens in just this specific space.
We found that masculinity is being constructed and reproduced both on the playing field and the actual process of competing, but also in different social settings that have nothing to do with actually competing in athletics, such as living together or studying together or just, social hangouts, because most athletes, as we found, are each other's closest friend groups.
We start our analysis by exploring what makes up hegemonic athletic masculinity.
And all of our respondents were asked what characteristics do they think an ideal teammate possess. Most of our respondents highlighted such traits as responsible, consistent, wants to win, always looking to grow and to improve on the techniques and strength,
as well as those who were dedicated to their sport, disciplined in their training, and willing to sacrifice their body and time for the good of the team. All of these ideals are consistent with a hegemonic masculinity tied to domination over others and the body.
At the same time, we found that some athletes listed such qualities as being open to being vulnerable or trusting your teammates, which might be a sign of the development of inclusive or hybrid masculinities.
The way that many of these athletes spoke about their commitment to the team paralleled previous studies about the modern bromance. Robinson, White, and Anderson's 2019 study of bromances suggests that the strong homosocial friendship can actually rival a heterosexual romantic relationship. There is a deep emotional stability and enhanced emotional disclosure that actually goes along with some of these homosocial bonds. We believe that because of how much time the athletes are spending together, both on the field and also often that they live together, they create this really strong connection to each other. However, while we may be seeing an emergent hybrid masculinity that values more emotional intimacy and vulnerability, we also found that athletic masculinity includes demonstrations of violence as a marker of team membership.
Here's what Graham, Jr. on the hockey team, told us about violence.
Like the closest teams that I've been on are the ones that, like, if someone gets hit the wrong way, like, you feel it in your chest. Like, you're like, you really want to hurt the guy that, like, hurt your teammate, like that kind of thing.
Which we interpreted as the protection of the group masculine project, and as the threat to the masculinity of one member is a threat of masculinity of the whole team.
Even as male athletes are talking about how close they are with each other, there is still this performance of a hegemonic masculinity that includes violence in order to compensate for expressing these intimate feelings they have for their teammates. Now let's talk a little bit more about the physical space of the gym and how this contributes to the construction of this athletic masculinity that we've discussed.
Gyms specifically serve as places for masculine bonding, but also masculine policing. All of our respondents have noted how actually working out with the team is by no means mandatory or imposed, but expected from every single team member, so they feel the pressure to work out together nonetheless. There's a huge notion of pushing each other and holding each other accountable in the gym. Some of our respondents talked about the phenomena of cheering for the underdog, interpreted as hyping up someone who is probably not lifting as much weight as they should be, or chirping, which was also described as making fun of someone nicely to motivate them, or yelling camaraderie, which referred to, again, yelling or hyping each other up or patting each other on the back to, again, increase intensity of workouts.
Athletes who were able to lift heavier weights were often credited with more gender capital because of the performance of masculinity.
Here we can see how Graham describes the hierarchy of weights and how much different athletes should or are expected to be lifting.
But if like there's a football kid next to me, like I'll look at what he's lifting, but I won't feel bad about like not lifting as much as him. Versus like if there was like someone who didn't play a sport lifting, I would feel some sort of shame.
Okay.
To some degree of so there is a level of, and prestige is probably a good word, but like there's a level of like status I feel like that can come with lifting a lot of weight. And
Similarly, this is what Bobby, a sophomore on the hockey team, said.
But when you look over and someone's putting up a weight that you didn't expect, you kind of look at what you're doing and are like, oh, he's really working hard. I don't want him to beat me. Like, maybe I should put some more on.
Because there is a differentiation between those who are athletes and what they are expected to be able to lift and what athletes expect themselves to be able to lift, there is a hierarchy of masculinity.
And we definitely see the policing aspect of it and the self-policing aspect of it when athletes talk about how they're peeking at what others are lifting around them and comparing it to what they're lifting. On top of that, mocking or joking with each other is also a very common way of policing masculinity in the gym. Some of our respondents referred to such lighthearted jokes as, is it curls day or is it your beach body day, as a way to control the behavior of their teammates and to make sure that they don't focus on the appearance side of working out and focus more on team productivity and the team goal of actually getting better at the sport.
However, although our interviewees talked about the importance of the gym as a tool for gaining athletic ability and would mock their teammates for showing off, many of them also revealed that looking athletic was an important part of their own self-image. Athletes wanted to be seen as lifting heavier weights or putting more time in at the gym. This creates a contradiction in which masculinity is both something achieved through hard work, but is also effortless. First-year students are often put down by older team members for being too cocky or for being too full of themselves.
One of our respondents described this phenomenon as the team culture of subduing arrogance, the process of keeping first years in check about their masculinity. It can both be attributed to the threat of masculinity of upperclassmen, but it can also be attributed to the desire to appear as inclusive or appear as hybridly masculine to the rest of campus. Because this campus is at least appearing to be inclusive and, not hegemonically masculine, there's a pressure to not appear so to the rest of campus. They don't want to appear as like those like machos with no brains. And this is why they try to keep their masculinity in check and also, brag about how their team has a high GPA. All of that to prove that they're not those guys.
So whether or not we could interpret that as a performative kind of woke masculinity, I think is up for question. We also asked athletes to talk about the gym itself as a physical space.
We asked our respondents about what they think were rules or etiquette accepted in the gym. All of them said that making unnecessary noise, banging weights, disrupting or preventing focusing of others was completely unacceptable and was something that one could get weird looks for.
Respondents also frowned upon those who showed off. For example, taking pictures of oneself or looking in the mirror too long was seen as behavior that was too arrogant.
We also asked our respondents how does going to the gym make them feel.
Here's what a couple of our respondents said.
Usually it makes me feel very good. Just makes you feel like you accomplished like something.
I guess there's a sense of accomplishment, like you actually like did something, and it's something like lifting is not easy, it's difficult, and so there is like a sense of like accomplishment, but outside of that I don't really feel much.
Like feelings of like being like productive, you're getting a good exercise in, and like you feel good because you have accomplished something that day.
All of our respondents referred to some sort of a sense of accomplishment. We're debating whether that was an indicator of an accomplished masculine project, Or maybe that was an accomplishment of a team goal or team membership, or was some kind of team requirement that validated and legitimized their team experience.
It seems like what they are accomplishing really is about the masculine body project. It's a project that is never ending and must continuously be upkept through going to the gym.
We also asked our respondents about their relationship with female athletes and females in the gym and how their social interactions play out. Most of our respondents referred to a general sense of not engaging with athletes of different genders.
Julia, a player on the women's soccer team, said that she felt comfortable in the gym, but she also complained about the way some male athletes treated women in the space.
This happened, like a situation happened this semester. I was with one of my teammates lifting in the gym, and someone was like, to my teammate, to my friend, was like, "Hey, you look really good working out." And the way it was framed was like, just not making it seem like females are supposed to be like in the gym type of comment.
Most of our male interviewees indicated that they only interact with females if they are their close friends, and if they are, then they would interact with them in the same way that they would interact with their male friends who are not athletes. This leads us to the conclusion that gym does not recognize or promote femininity, and again, from the perspective of male athletes, it is not a space for femininity.
This also seems to imply that it is not necessarily a question about gender, but about who has the superior athletic status. Because women and non-athletes were seen on the same level, we can conclude that male athletes see themselves as having a gender capital higher than those around them.
When asked specifically about the dynamics of the Buck basement, some of our respondents recognized that it can be distressing to be in the basement for those who are not male athletes, but none of them really were able to pinpoint a reason for that, or actually name a reason that they would personally find legitimate.
Now let's shift to talking a little bit about what happened during COVID. At the end of last spring, all of the students at Bowdoin College were sent home. This meant athletes no longer had access to any of their athletic facilities or the gym.
Most of them referred to the sense of frustration and anxiety that they felt being disconnected from their teams.
Although many of them continued to work out at home, this was seen as a very different experience than what they were able to achieve in the gym. At home, many of them were working out completely by themselves. They saw it more as a way to maintain their athleticism, but not as a form of being an athlete.
We found that the social aspect of team membership during COVID times was more important than the actual physical aspect of being on a team and playing and working out together.
This spring, many athletes were able to return to campus, but the restrictions of the gym meant that the experience was not the same as it was before. Although interviewees described going to the gym before COVID as a non-social activity, what they said they missed most about the gym during the pandemic was the support they used to get from their teammates while working out.
We found that they could not anymore compare their results and their lifting experience with the experience of others around them.
So, although athletes said that it was a very individual experience to work out, there is still a piece of the performance of masculinity that's really important about being in the gym together with their teammates.
In conclusion, we found that working out in the gym with the team is only a small part of the masculine athletic project that is happening within male teams. We found that the social aspect of being on the team is way more important for the overall masculinity project. It is important for athletes to be present together and uplift each other's masculinity while working out.
We found that not only is the gym a space for creating an individual's masculinity, but also a collective team masculinity.
One of the things that was lost during COVID was the ability for athletes to compare themselves to others, which speaks to the hierarchy of who can actually achieve the masculine body project.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast, and we appreciate your attention.